Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So you've heard me saying this plenty of times recently, but we just keep getting more and more evidence that Manchester United are not very good at football. But considering they're a big football club, that kind of needs to change. It's not exactly an ideal situation. Now, one man that has been brought in to try and help the club is Rangnick, and on several occasions we've seen him saying that Manchester United are going to need 4, 5, 6 or maybe even 10 transfers if they want to get themselves back to the right level. And with Ten Hag coming into the club, the most important thing is that Manchester United start recruiting the right type of signings, and also for the right fees. But when you're looking to sign that amount of players, it is going to be very expensive either way. So with that in mind, I thought that today we'd take a look at some players that are out of contract this summer and start discussing whether or not United should look to bring them into the club in order to save a little bit of extra money. So the first player out of contract this summer that I want to talk about is Juventus and Argentina forward Paulo Dayabala, who is currently 28 years old and he's clearly a special talent. So let's take a look at what makes him so good. So for me, I think one of the best things about Dayabala is his pure tactical flexibility and his ability to play in a few different positions. He's extremely capable of playing on the right hand side, through the centre just behind the striker, or even up front. One thing that makes Dayabala so versatile is that he's just a brilliantly technically gifted footballer, and it's his close controlling and dribbling ability which makes him so capable of picking up different positions because he's great in these tighter spaces. Using his close control and dribbling regularly allows Dayabala to work himself a bit of space in the final third of the pitch, from where he's brilliantly creative, and he also has an excellent eye for a pass to pick out a teammate in and around the box. As well as creating chances for others, Dayabala also gets into plenty of goal scoring positions himself, and once in these sort of situations he is a very good finisher, leading to him scoring a lot of goals throughout his career so far. Now, this particular season, Dayabala has been hit by a few injuries, which has impacted his ability to score on a regular basis. But even with this lack of time, he has still been one of Juventus' top goal scorers so far this season. In general, over the past 365 days, he has been brilliant, and we can see that when we compare him with the other forwards in Europe's top 5 leagues in the past year, he ranks highly in almost every single category. Now, everything so far has been looking good for Dayabala, and as I said earlier, he is a very gifted player. However, my one big concern over him as a player is his injury record, and it seems pretty fair to level him as an injury-prone player. This is where the idea of a potential transfer becomes a bit of a gamble, because when Dayabala does play, he is usually simply incredible. However, the question is, how often is he really likely to play because he does miss a lot of games during a season? In the past, this is the sort of transfer that Manchester United have gone for, a big name and extremely gifted footballer but with a poor injury record, although I do think that this is the sort of approach that is going to change with Rangnick coming into the club, and for that reason I don't think that this is a transfer that Rangnick or Ten Hag will be recommending to the club, but let me know in the comments down below if you think this is a likely transfer and also whether or not you want it to happen. For the next player, we're going to keep our focus on Serie A, and this time we're looking at AC Milan and Ivory Coast midfielder Frank Kissy, who has been linked with a move away from the club for a few years now. So I'm sure you've heard his name a lot in the past, but how much do you actually know about him as a player? Well, let me help you, and to start off with, Kissy is a player who tends to drop quite deep towards his own defensive third in order to help his team play out from the back. However, despite often receiving the ball in these quite deep areas, Kissy isn't really a player that looks to progress the ball, especially not with his passing, and instead he often takes a safer approach to make sure that he keeps possession for his side. Now, whilst this may be a criticism or a flaw in his game, it can also be a positive as well, because it does mean that Kissy is usually quite a safe option in possession, meaning that he doesn't tend to lose the ball for his side very often. However, Kissy is human and does still have flaws in his passing, and personally I'm not a fan of his longer passing range, simply because he tends to loft or float the pass just a little bit too much, which allows the opposition to get into a defensive shape. So if we're just summing Kissy up in terms of his passing, he is usually a pretty safe option for his side, but he doesn't really offer too much more than that, and I think if he wants to go to the next level then he does need to improve in this area as a player. We can also see this to a certain extent on his FB Ref report. He ranks pretty well in several different areas, but there isn't really anything that really jumps out at you to make him really stand out amongst other midfielders in Europe. Now, whilst I do think that Kissy can be slightly flawed in possession, he certainly has a lot to offer to the side with his defensive contributions, and he's a player that is more than happy to play in a team with a pressing system in an attempt to win the ball back. Kissy has also helped in this department by his sheer size and physique, and in this sense he is an absolute physical monster, making him quite impressive in his individual ground duels to win or retain possession for his side. Overall, I do think that Kissy is a good player who has plenty to offer to his side, and I think at the right club he could take his game to the next level, but personally I'm not sure that Manchester United is the right move for him. The next player on the list is another midfielder, but this time we're heading over to the French league to look at France and Marseille midfielder Bubakar Kamara, who is currently 22 years old and of course out of contract again this summer. So when I've watched Kamara, the one thing that has really stood out to me is his press resistance, and for those that are new to the channel, it means that he is able to drop deep, absorb pressure from the opposition, before then turning and playing the ball forward to keep possession. Whilst being quite adventurous as he looks to turn out of the press, Kamara is another player that tends to play in a much safer manner in the middle third of the pitch, and again he tends to keep his passing relatively simple. This is really highlighted when we look at his FB Ref report, where we can see that he has completed 94% of his passes, which really just highlights the fact that he doesn't tend to lose possession for his side very often at all. Despite this, there are still situations when Kamara does lose the ball, and it tends to come when he is too keen to try and move the ball forward a little bit too quickly, which does occasionally result in him giving the ball away rather needlessly. Instead, I think Kamara looks better when he takes slightly more time on the ball, looking to switch to play with his long passing, and usually has a very good weight of pass, firing the ball out towards his teammates to move the ball quickly from side to side. Whilst offering a decent amount to his side in possession with a mixture of safe and longer passing, Kamara really comes into his element when he is asked to perform more of a defensive role, and he is a great defensive asset for his team in the midfield. One of the things that makes Kamara so good at defending is the fact that he is constantly scanning his awareness to identify the danger in and around him, before then stepping in to make the interception and win the ball back for his side. Kamara is also another player that is helped by his natural athleticism and physique, which once again allows him to win most of his duels both in and out of possession, and it makes him excellent at winning the ball back for his side. From a more tactical point of view, this athleticism means that Kamara is very capable of covering for his teammates, especially in these wider areas, and to be fair, this is something that I think Ten Hag will be looking for as he attempts to sign a new midfielder. So overall, Kamara looks like a young player with a lot of potential. Off the ball, he has brilliant physique and the awareness to match, but I do believe that he needs to improve on the ball to take that next step in his career as he develops. So time to move over to Spanish football to look at France and Barcelona winger Ousmane Dembele, who is currently 24 years old and has really been lighting up La Liga since the new year began, and he's had more chances in the team. So of course we think about Dembele and the first thing that comes to mind is his incredible dribbling ability, and I think it is exactly this that has always made him such an exciting player to watch since he first burst onto the scene in European football. Honestly, on form, I'm not sure that there are many wingers in European football that can beat opponents as easily as what Dembele can, and at times he effortlessly glides or skills his way past a group of opposition defenders. As well as possessing all this dribbling ability to get into the final third, Dembele is a player that has plenty of end product, and once in these dangerous areas, he is excellent at keeping his calm to find a teammate in the opposition's box. To be fair, I do think that Dembele dropped off in this department for a couple of seasons, but this year he has really returned to top form, and has been producing simply outrageous numbers week in, week out in La Liga since the turn of the year. And we can see that from these stats here, and in fact when these stats were recorded, he actually had more assists than 90 minutes completed in La Liga. And if you think about it, that is actually an absolutely outrageous statistic. Dembele's numbers continue to look extremely impressive when we look at his FB Ref report, comparing him to every other winger in Europe's top 5 leagues in the past year, and again his numbers are brilliant and he ranks extremely well once again. However, for all the positives about Ousmane Dembele, I do have a couple of criticisms, with one being his low goal tally, and whilst his creative numbers have improved this year, it has come at the cost of scoring less goals for his side. My other big concern with Dembele is his injury record, and despite all of his brilliant ability, he is a player that has been set back time and time again by injury, and that as always has to be a concern when looking to sign a brand new player. I do think this move would be a risk. Don't get me wrong, he is unbelievably gifted and has the potential to be one of the best in the world, but he will only fulfill that potential if he stays fit, and I'm just not sure that that is going to happen. So that is that. This United squad clearly needs upgrades, and there are some good players available on a free transfer this summer. And hopefully the information I've given you will help you come to a decision on a few players, whether they should be brought into the club or not. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.